G'day there guys, the key to success is to start before you're ready. It's your main man Markee and welcome back to another episode of r/AmiTheA. Now if you love today's episode, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and enjoy today's bloody good content. Thank you. Posted by user BroHubTruth. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law the truth about my brother and my husband? I have a husband named Matt and an older brother named Tony. Tony has a wife named Anna. Tony and I both went to boarding school growing up. I went to an all-girls school and he went to an all-boys school across the country. Because of the distance, we weren't very close as kids, and I didn't know much about his life back then. When Tony was at boarding school, he met my future husband Matt, and they became best friends. At the time, Tony was dealing with depression about his sexuality, and Matt helped him out of it. Long story short, they ended up falling in love and having a relationship. Once they graduated high school, they broke up and lost touch. I didn't know about any of this at the time. I ended up going to the same university as Matt, which is where I met him. I didn't mention my brother initially because he wasn't really a part of my life, and since Tony and I have different last names, the three of us didn't put the pieces together until a family gathering a year later. I'm not gonna lie, it was tough at first for everyone involved, but eventually we were able to all get past it, and Tony and Matt became best friends again. Matt and I got married 3 years ago. When I met Tony's partner, Anna, for the first time, I privately asked Tony if he told her about his history with Matt. Tony said it was still a new relationship and he would tell her when they were more serious. Now Tony and Anna are married. Since Tony and Matt are so close, they often go on boys' trips with just the two of them. They took one of these trips this past weekend and everything was going fine until I got a call from Anna asking if I knew where Tony was. Apparently, he told her he was going to see our parents, but she called them and he wasn't there. I told her that he was on a trip with Matt. She got upset and asked me if there was something going on between them. Thinking she already knew because she and Tony are now married, I told her not to worry because Matt and Tony's romance ended in high school. That's when I found out Tony never told her. Tony was furious at me when he got back because Anna is threatening divorce and I'm tearing up his family because I told her without asking him first. Apparently, Tony didn't tell Anna the truth because he thought that she wouldn't let him see Matt anymore, and now Anna wants him to cut me and Matt out completely. Matt is upset too because he can't see Tony and he's losing his best friend all over again. My brother wants to cut me out of his life. His wife wants a divorce and my husband is miserable, all because of something I said. I feel so guilty and can't help but feel as though I messed up. Am I the a-hole? No, this is their fault for not telling the wife when they got married or, quite a few years before that. I feel like anyone would be pissed off knowing that they were lied to about going on trips with someone that they used to have, a romantic, physical connection with. I can't say I'd be too happy to be in her position finding out, and it's not your fault that you told her and uncovered this. You're not an a-hole for doing this. They suck by lying by omission. So, not the a-hole. Edit. I really appreciate everyone's comments. Some of them are very hard to read, but I suppose this is a wake-up call that's long overdue. I know it may seem difficult to believe that someone my age can be so naive and clueless, but being rational is something I've always struggled with. I wish it were fake. I'm realizing that this is most likely far worse than I thought it was. I won't be able to respond to individual comments for a bit, but I am reading all of them in the meantime, and will post an update when I can. Edit 2. I've seen a lot of comments asking why I didn't say anything about the trip sooner and what I thought they were doing. So I'll just answer here for the sake of convenience. My brother has been struggling with pretty severe depression for the past few years. Because of this, he doesn't go out much or have many friends. My husband is his only close friend and the only one Tony will open up to because my husband helped him through depression when they were younger. The outings with Matt are one of the few things that make my brother happy. Matt always told me they do regular things like play video games and watch movies and go biking, so I didn't think too much into it. Even with Matt being Tony's ex, I thought it was more like Matt was helping his friend through a tough time. I see now how stupid I was to assume that, but that was my thought process. Edit 3. Please don't let this post be a justification for homo and biphobia. Whatever happens with my brother and my husband isn't reflective of gay and bi people as a whole. Edit 4. Last edit. Wow. I stepped away from a bit and there are a ton of comments. I won't be able to respond individually as there's a lot going on right now, clearly, but I'll still be reading. Before I sign off, I have a couple of quick updates. Matt agreed to tell me everything after I've given him some time and space to process all of this. As much as I, and probably you all, want answers now, that's what I will be doing. Still no word from brother or sister-in-law. I'm going to give it a rest for the day and try to focus on something that doesn't terrify me. I will be back with a separate update post when things make more sense. Thank you all. Also, I have seen Brokeback Mountain. Evidently, it's a lot more fun on screen than it is in real life. Update. I wasn't at all expecting my last post to get so much attention. To say that the comments were a wake-up call is an understatement. Many people wanted an update, so here it is. After I gave my husband space, I confronted him about his trips with my brother. He agreed to be honest with me about their relationship. As some of you suspected, Matt knew when we first met that I was Tony's sister and started dating me to get close to Tony again. He claimed that in the first year of our relationship, before he reunited with Tony, he genuinely fell in love with me. When Tony saw us together, he admitted to Matt that he still loved him and was distraught when Matt said he didn't feel the same way. Eventually, they made amends and became close friends again. Around the time Matt married me, Tony fell into a deep depression. That's when the trip started. Matt told me that initially he was just supporting Tony as a friend, but Tony broke down on one of the trips and confessed that he never stopped loving Matt and was lying about the trips to his wife because he felt guilty. Also, why he never told her about their history. He begged Matt to keep this a secret to protect their relationship. According to Matt, nothing physical ever happened between them. I pushed him on why Anna thought there was something going on, and Matt eventually admitted they were having an emotional affair. A few months ago, Anna overheard a phone call between Tony and Matt that made her suspicious, so she went through Tony's phone and confronted him about some things she found. No hard proof, but enough to make her uneasy. She told Tony she didn't want him hanging around with Matt anymore, but he did anyway until I accidentally ratted him out. My brother and sister-in-law have totally cut contact, so I don't have anyone to corroborate my husband's story. I still don't know how much of it I believe. If it's true, I don't know why Anna never told me anything. The whole thing sounds too ridiculous to be real, but for now, it's all I have. Matt has apologized non-stop and wants to work through this, which I can't even think about right now. The past couple of weeks have been awful. Matt moved out. We both agreed that we need distance before making any decisions about our marriage, but I don't see us coming back from this. I don't think I'll ever be able to trust anyone again. The worst thing is, I only have myself to blame for being so fudging naive and not seeing the massive red flags sooner, and for marrying my brother's ex in the first place. More than anything, I feel so incredibly guilty. This was not the ending I'd hoped for, but I'm grateful that at least I have some answers now. Honestly, I'm not sure I would have had the courage to directly confront this if not for my post here. So despite everything, maybe we can all think of this as somewhat of a happy ending. Thank you all for your comments and support. I'm so sorry. I remember commenting on your post back then. This is not your fault. You did nothing to deserve this. Don't feel stupid. You trusted someone you loved, and unfortunately, that trust was not honored. But that doesn't make it your mistake. I hope you heal from this and find peace. What a terrible situation they've both put you and Anna in. Thank you. It's been so hard not to blame myself. I can only hope that this pain will pass in time. I understand. It's hard not to look inwards and say, if only I'd done X, none of this would have happened, so this must be my fault somehow. But it's not. We are never at fault for loving, trusting, and seeing the best in people. It is their responsibility and blame for taking advantage of your faith and goodwill. My father passed away last year. It was immensely painful. The anniversary of his death was a few weeks ago, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Time, plus the support of family and friends, and a little therapy heals all wounds. You'll recover from this. You are doing exactly what you can right now. Remember, the only way out is through. You're going through it now. Soon you'll be out of these woods. Your comment is exactly what I needed right now. I appreciate this so much. I'm so sorry to hear about your father. I can't imagine what that's like, and I admire your resilience. I start therapy next week, and I'm super grateful that my family and friends have rallied around me in this. The only way out is through. I'm going to hang on to that. Got any spare change 33 says, it's okay, you did nothing wrong. What Mark did to you was completely wrong. He took complete advantage of you and your brother's relationship. You were an amazing partner and gave him everything he needed. Remember that. All you need to do is learn from these mistakes. This story seems to have more details that Matt is hiding, but at this rate, you thankfully don't want to stay anyways. This marriage was built on sand and lies. It's time to move on. I hope you think about counseling for yourself. Good luck, OP, wishing you peace and happiness. And OP replies, thank you. I also suspect that there is more to the story, but like you said, I don't want to waste my energy on it. Fortunately, I'm starting therapy next week. I just realized that Anna might not have told you because she suspects that you knew about their affair. I mean, you were okay with the trips between your bro and husbands. That could potentially be the reason why she cut contact with you as well. I'm also very glad that you're starting therapy. Take all the time you need to heal. Posted by user Throwaway482799. Titled, Would I be the a-hole if I won't allow my in-laws in their 50s and their unemployed adult children, 24-29, to move into my partner and I's home? My partner and I live together and have been responsible and prudent in our early and mid-20s, and now own a home together. We have been together for 4 years, and my partner and I are committed long-term. During the course of our relationship, there has been a lot of ups and downs with my partner's family over minor things that are blown out of proportion. During most interactions with in-laws, I am ignored, alienated, and left out of family discussions, plans, and in general, it is pretended that I don't exist, even though partner and I live together. I have consistently been a supporting partner and have made significant changes to my life plans and moved to accommodate my partner's career to a state thousands of miles from my own family. Our home is our sanctuary, and the familiar place that feels like home in this new area to me. Now my partner's parents have sold their home by choice during an incredibly hot market in our area without a contingency clause dependent on them closing on a new house. Because of the situation they chose to put themselves in, they are now pressuring us to move into our house until they can purchase another home. I want to tell them that I understand their situation is hard, but it's not their place to demand that my partner and I house them since they are trying to force our hands. So Reddit, would I be the a-hole if I refuse to house my partner's parents and adult siblings pro bono for an undetermined amount of time? I think no. Obviously, everyone's different in these situations, but me personally, I wouldn't let that happen. And maybe I would be judged as the a-hole for this one. But if you intentionally put yourself into this situation without securing a house before selling your own house, what are you doing? How long are you going to be sticking around my house with my partner in this amount of time? If you've intentionally put yourself in this situation when it didn't have to happen in the first place, you were just stupid and you dropped the ball, I'm not going to feel bad for you in this situation. So I'm on OP's side for this one. Not the a-hole. And you would not be the a-hole. Not the a-hole. So they make a mistake and you have to pay the price? That's crazy talk. Talk to your significant other and say that it's not okay. Do it fast before he gives in and you find yourself in a world of crap. OP replies, ironically, the in-laws called shortly after I posted and we had this exact conversation. We made it clear that they are not welcome to stay here and mother-in-law said she would bring boxes over next week. So you told her no and she said she's bringing boxes over? She doesn't have a key, correct? Please keep doors locked. Better yet, change the locks and get a security cam, just to be sure. And OP says, at the end of the conversation, she blurted out that she would bring boxes over anyways. I am going to change the locks tomorrow and will tell her any boxes left here will go straight to the dump. Edit, she does not have keys, but the other relative does. Not the a-hole. Not the dump. Why go to that much trouble? If boxes arrive, refuse to accept them. No one by that name lives here. If boxes are still left, put them on the curb, go back inside, and re-lock the door. Not the a-hole. Do not let them in. They will never leave. They will treat you like a servant. Do not do it. The market is hopping, and they will not get a place soon. Save yourself and your relationship. They can get a short-term rental. You say to them, your lack of planning does not constitute an emergency on my part. Hopefully the in-laws sold at a profit so it can cover the hotel you recommend to them. Their situation may be hard, but not unforeseeable. They did this to themselves, not the a-hole. Updates. Here's how things ran down. This all began when our in-laws called and said they were 2 weeks out from closing on their house, by choice, hot market, and selling without a contingency clause upon them finding another home. My partner and I were direct and cordial as possible in saying that no, they would not be allowed to move in. After that conversation, they blew up our phones the next morning at 6 a.m, demanding to be let in at around 9. I rushed off to the hardware store and changed the locks because mother-in-law ultimately forced brother-in-law to give up the key we trusted to him. So, locks changed, said no, and we go about a 3-day break from all the harassments. Around when the parents were 5 days out of closing, we had all sorts of extended family blowing us up to take them in. Ironically, none of them had volunteered to take them in, but that's what you do for family. I sat down with the in-laws without my partner because they had requested to speak with me alone about a week ago. They spent nearly 4 hours trying to guilt me into changing my partner's mind. When I finally had enough, I told them flat out this conversation was over, and they left pretty upset. Closing day has come, and tomorrow they have nowhere to go but a hotel. Tonight has been a hailstorm of phone calls, but my partner and I are so glad we stood our ground. Thank you to everyone for their feedback and helping us feel like we were justified in our decision. For the record, they do not have offers in on a new home, so some of you are right that them staying with us could be indefinitely. A comment from user Order66Cody quotes what the family said about "that's what you do for family." I love this irony. Seriously, why aren't those relatives offering their homes? Because people are always more generous with others' time, money, and energy than they are with their own. My wife and I financially supported my mother for several years before we finally put our foot down because she refused to make sensible financial choices. She damaged our relationship, and I was not willing to deal with her living with us, especially since an aunt had said my mum would always have a home with her. Turns out my aunt was a liar, and tried to simultaneously pull the woe is me card while attempting to guilt me into having my mom stay with me because that's what family does. People usually say, "But we're family," when they know they're in the wrong, as a way to guilt you into doing things that they want or forgiving the unforgivable. And it sounds to me like they had every intention of that staying permanently. Effectively, they were planning to leech off you and your partner. I'm willing to bet that no rent was offered. You would have become servants in your own home. You absolutely did the right thing. Normigusta111 says, "We understand you feel very strongly about family helping family. We've informed the in-laws that your home is open to them and they will be in touch with moving specifics. Just send that response every time a family member tries to guilt trip you." Posted by user WanderLost404. Titled, "Am I the a-hole for not letting my roommate use the car anymore?" So I own 2 vehicles outright. A newer vehicle that is my daily driver, and a 2001 model Jeep Cherokee that I keep because 2 to 3 times a month I want to use the 4-wheel drive for something. I would consider selling the Jeep because I don't need 2 vehicles, but decided to keep it for now. The deal. The Jeep is in my name, and I pay the insurance for it. I made a deal with my roommate that they can drive it as much as they want. I gave them keys, provided that 1, they pay for their own gas, and 2, they pay for the upkeep and repairs on the Jeep up to the cost I pay for insurance on it every year. This includes oil changes and the like. My roommate doesn't have a car, and they're dependent on my Jeep to get to work. I've been asking them for a few months to get the oil changed, and they haven't. It's past due by 2 months. I've been asking them to get basic maintenance done since April, and they haven't done anything. It needs 2 new tires, and I'm willing to help with the cost of this. The spark plugs and the windshield wipers are completely screwed. Nothing major, all just basic maintenance. I confronted them about it with an ultimatum. Go get basic maintenance done as per our deal, or I'll take the keys back. I've been asking them to do maintenance since April, and provided this ultimatum on June 1st, with reminders ever since. Last Friday, I took the keys back. I told them a week prior that I would do so they could plan for it, and said they can't drive it anymore if they won't do maintenance as per our deal. They've missed work so far this week because they can't get to work and didn't make other plans to get there. There have been constant fights about this because they can't afford the maintenance, and I am preventing them from getting to their job to make money in order to be able to afford it. But I've been asking since April FFS. Am I the a-hole for taking the keys back and preventing them from going to work? It is reasonable that they might get fired if they miss the entire week, but I've given an ample warning. Several of our friends are saying that I'm the a-hole because I can technically afford to get things fixed myself and should give them a break, or that I should let them keep driving it until they can pay for it because they need it to get to work. Edit. It is quite possible they will lose their job if they don't get back to work soon. They are otherwise a decent roommate, and the pandemic has been rougher on them than on me. I have more disposable income. They sometimes do my dishes along with theirs, but otherwise, things are even between us, apart from my loan of the car. I'm gonna go with not the a-hole for this one. I don't know why they refused to do it. They had 4 months of you asking them to do the maintenance. They had so many weeks, so many days to get it done, and yet they refused to. They might be an otherwise alright person outside of this fiasco, but that is still no excuse in my books to drop the ball like this, especially when you're being allowed to use the car and you just have to pay for a little bit of the services. This roommate does not at all sound grateful for the opportunity that OP has given them, therefore they get that right taken off them. They can be a child all they want and not make plans to go to work. Guess what? You get fired if you do that. And it's all your fault. It is all your fault if you do that. I want to slap the roommate in the face and say, grow up and look after yourself. Stop complaining. You've done this to yourself. OP, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You were incredibly kind and generous to lend an extremely valuable asset to your roommates when they needed it. It's basic courtesy to get it maintained since they're not paying for anything else. If it had been me borrowing your car, that thing would have been kept up like the Queen's coach. You sound like an awesome person. Thank you. I feel bad that there is 50-50 odds he'll lose his job, but I also feel like he was taking advantage. Not the a-hole. You had an arrangement and they aren't upholding their end of the deal. They can find other ways to work, like Uber, train, bus, taxi, etc. Tell them it's your car, your choice. We live in a rural area. There are no bus stops within several miles, and I don't know if Uber is feasible or not. I've never seen any form of public transport out here within walking distance. I feel bad that there are decent odds that they'll lose their job if they can't get someone else to take them to work, but I also feel like they were taking advantage, and I gave them ample warning. So, you're not the a-hole, but think about what them losing their job might mean for your rent. It might be in your own self-interest to make sure they keep their job. Yeah, this has been on my mind. Something to weigh pros and cons of, for sure. This is a college town, so I could probably find someone else to take the room he's using, but that's not ideal. I guess I could move too, or I could let him keep using the car, but I'm still crossing my fingers he'll figure his crap out. Updates. So quite a bit has changed in my life since I made that last post. Roommate did lose his job. He got a few rides from co-workers and his sister, who visited for 3 days during the pandemic, but often he didn't make it in on time and missed more days on top of that. He borrowed, stole, whatever the keys the day after he lost his job, and he drove my Jeep to work to try to convince them not to fire them. Apparently, he threw a fit while he was there, so he's definitely not getting rehired. He threw a fit when he got back too, doing very slight damage to my Jeep. I was home and pissed when I realized he'd taken it out. He maintained that it was unfair of me to expect him to pay for all my repairs, etc., even with the stipulations outlined in the previous post. He got more and more combative every day and kept making up excuses to use the Jeep and ask for the keys again, which I'd hidden better. Anyway, I paid up through October, rental house in a rural area, and moved in with my brother and his husband. His husband lost his job almost as soon as the pandemic hit, and they've been having trouble paying rent on one salary. We used Splitwise, the website, to figure out how much I'd contribute. I'm sleeping in their second bedroom, which is set up as an office, so it's not ideal. I don't have as much privacy as I'd like, and they have less access to their office, but I'm saving a decent bit of money. We're planning for 6 months of this setup at present, which will let me save to find a better place without a roommate and give them time to get their finances sorted out. Oh, and I sold the Jeep to my roommate's uncle. Apparently he bitched about it enough to everyone that his uncle realized he kinda wanted a Jeep, and I got a bit less than KBB value for it, but it was quick cash. There was only one parking spot available for me at my brother's apartment, so I was in a hurry. I have no idea if my roommate is driving it now or not. I still feel a twinge of sadness and nostalgia when I think of the Jeep that I don't have anymore. There's reasons I kept it when I wasn't really using it. It was the right choice to sell it, but part of me wishes I hadn't. A bit boring, all things considered, but I like reading updates, so I figured I'd make one. Hey, from a mechanic's background, you made the best choice possible to get rid of the Jeep. Trust me, that brand is notorious for constantly needing repairs. You made a good choice. Thanks for updating. Your ex-roommate was selfish and spoiled. He can go throw a tantrum for his audience of 0. I noticed you said you paid up through October. Hopefully you got off the lease? ? Otherwise you can be liable for any damages, etc. that can happen to the apartment. Like if the landlord needs to evict your ex-roommate, that will also be an eviction on your record, which will make renting in the future almost impossible. Yeah, it was originally going to be up in January. House rental, not an apartment, but the landlord was pretty understanding about it after I explained what was going on. I ended up paying for about 2 months that I'm not living there, but all things considered, that's damned lenient. I think they have someone else lined up to live there, but I'm concerned they'll have trouble getting rid of my roommate if he can't pay. Hard to evict during the pandemic. As long as you are legally off the lease, keep all your documentation backed up. Will do. Thank you for the warning to go and make doubly sure. Posted by user Geriatric Puppy. Titled, Would I be the a-hole if I suggested we euthanize our dog before our family vacation? Obligatory throwaway account and mobile, so I apologize for formatting errors. I have a 12-year-old border collie. We adopted him January 2012. He is a much-loved member of our family. Dad, mum, and 3 kids. He is diabetic and has a thyroid condition and has arthritis in his hips. Currently, he takes insulin shots and 2 pills twice per day. In 2018, he beat Lyme disease, but that's when we discovered all the other health problems. He's been struggling to get up more and more. In the last 2 weeks, he has had 2 seizures. One was so significant that he bit his own tongue. He had one again today, and it took him 2 hours to come back to normal consciousness. Occasionally, he won't eat after he's given his insulin, which can cause another seizure due to a quick drop in blood sugar, unless I get down on the floor and feed him by hand. So, about 80% of the time now, he's a happy guy either napping, asking for pets, or asking you to throw the ball to him. He can't chase it anymore, but he still loves to take a couple chews, have you go get the ball and throw it back to him. It's that 20% that seems to be quickly taking over though. Here is where Would I Be the A-hole comes in. We have a family camping trip coming up the 2nd week of July. We can't afford to kennel him at the vet's office. We can't take him with us because we're planning some things that will have us away from the campsite all day, water park, and it's unsafe and unfair to keep him in the camper by himself all day. I have friends that can care for him and administer his meds. I am just earnestly afraid that he will pass away while we're gone, and I don't want them to carry that guilt. On the other hand, I don't want my kids to be sad all vacation about our dogs passing away. They know he's old, and they know he may pass away. It's just going to be really rough when it happens. Thank you for your help. Would I be the a-hole if I suggested we euthanize our dog before our family vacation? If we stepped back 100 years in the past, when this was normalized, I assume, maybe you wouldn't be the a-hole back then, but I know you're looking at it at a standpoint that this is, in your opinion, what's best for everyone. You're honestly just trying to take the easy way out of this, and I think it's pretty messed up what you're trying to do. And I even agree that a lot of people would do this because it does put the dog out of their misery faster. But in this situation, I would not do that. I would not suggest that you put it down. It really isn't the socially acceptable option, and I think you would be an a-hole for trying to go through with this one. Please don't. You would be the a-hole. This is a very difficult one to vote on. I can understand the concerns, but it seems like things are becoming worse and worse by the day. A vacation might not be the best of ideas right now if the dog's health is this much of a concern. I think the biggest point of discussion with the whole family would be a decision on staying to at least watch over him for however long he has left with you guys, and your suggestion of euthanization. Pets will die. That's a fact. And honestly, you may even be doing your dog a favor. I know that sounds incredibly callous, but it sounds like he's not quite enjoying his life as he used to. He may even be in pain during his 80%. It's a hard choice, but it's at least an option to suggest to your family. Not even specifically for the vacation's sake, for your dog's sake. No a-holes here. This one hits home for me. Last summer, my old boy had a massive seizure. First one he had ever had, while we were on vacation hours away. Our pet sitter rushed him to the vet, but he was too far gone and had to be put down. He was old, but it still came out of the blue. He had been slowing down, but still seemed like his happy self when we had left. I still feel like crying when I think about how I couldn't be there for him in his final moments. If you put your own feelings aside and truly think about what's best for your dog, no a-holes here. Do right by your buddy, whatever that looks like. Cancel the vacation. Your dog is a member of your family. Sounds like you're going for a convenient option so that the family vacation isn't spoiled. Sorry, but you're the a-hole. I agree with you on this one. If the dog is doing good 80% of the time and it's a member of the family, then you're the a-hole for even considering putting it down for your convenience. Cancel the trip or get someone else to watch him while you are gone. Not the a-hole. That's a lot of problems. People forget these are animals. With these health issues, he would have normally been dead by now. You can keep extending his life, so he can continue to have seizures, be unable to eat properly, constant pain, or you can let him go so he can rest. Also, see what your vet thinks. They might agree with you. Euthanize a dog out of convenience on Am I the A-hole? Pretty sure OP knew the response. Info. Have you gotten a vet's opinion? I've talked to his vet about when to euthanize before, but not this specific question. He says it's really up to our family. He has people that care for incontinent dogs with diapers. He has some that euthanize when they start having regular seizures. He basically said that as long as we enjoy him and he seems happy, we should enjoy him. Like I said in the post, it's about 80% happy, 20% scary now, and it seems to be declining fairly quickly. Updates. Still a throwaway account. I was clearly the a-hole and I accepted the judgment. I kept my mouth shut. We took the good boy with us and he didn't have any seizures during the trip. 2 weeks later, he started having seizures at 3:30 a.m. I rushed him to the vet as soon as it opened. He ended up having 10 seizures that day and never really came out of any of them. He just kind of stayed in a fugue state, even with IV meds to stop the seizures. We made the decision as a family to end his suffering. We were all with him when he passed, and we miss him dearly. Pet your puppers, folks. Hello. Sorry for you losing your dog. I have a diabetic dog and have some questions. Do the seizures happen because of the diabetes? Also, aren't you supposed to give them the food before the shot because they can't take it on an empty stomach? My vet wasn't sure if the seizures were related to the diabetes or not. We were leaning towards no, because he had seizures randomly throughout his life, and the diabetes didn't develop until later in life. For the insulin, we gave it to him twice a day with meals, along with his other pills. Juma Smith says, I didn't see your original post, and while your reasoning was somewhat understandable, I'm really glad you didn't do it. It is one of those things where you were trying balancing necessity, convenience, and feelings, which wouldn't have been fair. All of that to say, I am so happy you took him on the trip. You gave him a last hurrah. He had a great time, and you all got to spend some quality time with him. Your children are really going to appreciate the memories of this time with him, and he most definitely knew he was loved. I'm sorry he's gone, but I'm happy that he got that last good run with y'all. Dude, I'm so sorry people were so judgy to you. Having owned many dogs and witnessed and endured their end of life, it's so hard. Knowing when to put them down is the hardest decision. I think I've always made my pets suffer too much in the end because I'm so afraid to end their lives too early. Knowing they suffered too long hurts my heart. I think the recommendation you get advice from your vet was the best call. Don't be hard on yourself or feel like you were being an a-hole before. You were looking for advice and help. You were not an a-hole, and if your family had made the decision to put your dog down before the vacation, you would not have been an a-hole. I'm sorry for your loss. You're a good pet owner. When you're ready, there's a perfect dog for your family that's out there for you. Posted by user AITA 3409731. Titled, Am I the a-hole for giving my deceased son's college fund to his best friend instead of my nephew? This has been causing a conflict with my entire family, and they think that I'm being selfish and unreasonable. Let me explain first. I, 39 male, lost my son in 2019 due to a chronic heart condition. He was 15 years old. It was devastating, and I just couldn't take it, especially when my family did little to nothing to support me during these difficult times. They didn't bring my son meals when he was at the hospital. They didn't let me go home and rest even for a few hours. They didn't take care of other things while I had a lot to deal with. I wasn't offered any help, just words. They just talk but do nothing. Despite the struggle, I have created an account for my son's college fund and kept putting whatever I could get at the time, and me and my son would talk about that a lot. He was depressed, but always believed that he was going to get better and continue his education and attend college. I started saving money to keep him motivated and to make him feel like he could be like any other kid with hopes for a good future. He had a very close friend that's about the same age as him. They were friends for 5 years, and I can't express how his presence in my son's life helped him through the worst days. Sometimes his friend would spend the night with us and try to get my son to do activities and lighten up the mood all the time. To be frank, his friend was closer to him than his own family. He never stopped visiting and asking how I'm doing after my son's death. He'd show me handmade projects he made for my son and as a way to remember him. And we'd sometimes just sit and talk together or cry together. Last week, while I was with my family, my sister asked me what I was going to do with my son's college money. I didn't want to mention this, but since she asked, I told her that I will be giving the money to my son's friend. She barely even recognized his friend and was confused, and said that my nephew deserves this money since he's family. My mum agreed that I wasn't thinking straight and that I should help the people close to me, family, and that my nephew has a right to go to college and I was wrong for giving this opportunity away to someone else. I didn't know what to say. They kept pointing out that I was making a mistake and how my nephew will resent me if he finds out. The thing is, my nephew wasn't close to my son. I don't even know why he would be bothered. My sister went on about not being able to afford my nephew's college, and I told her this was my decision and I felt more comfortable that way. She started lashing out, constantly texting me, constantly wanting to talk to me, and ended up arguing. When I snapped, she had my mum calling me, basically guilt-tripping me, and telling me I'm wrong and that I needed to think about this. It's just too much pressure, and I'm feeling lost and unable to figure out how to deal with this. Well, I think the obvious answer is, who was closest to the son, and obviously the nephew wasn't. The nephew wasn't there to look after the son, obviously it wasn't his prerogative, but I'd say that's on your extended family, and everyone else who didn't want to go be there to support your son in his final hours. She is completely sweeping that under the rug, dismissing the fact that she did not care, so in my professional opinion, she is filth. I'm gonna go with not the a-hole for this one. Do not let them touch a dime of that money. Not the a-hole. Ask her what her plan was for her son's college if yours hadn't died, and then tell her to do that. You aren't obligated to do anything whatsoever with that money that you don't want to do. She says that I'm supposed to help since she's struggling, and neither her nor my brother-in-law are doing well financially. I'm not being bitter and getting back at them as they say. She's wrong. You don't owe them your son's money. As an absolute last resort, you can tell them that you discussed it with him and these were his wishes. But don't feel like you have to justify your own decision to them. You don't owe them. Hang in there. I know family guilt can feel awful, but if your son were looking over your shoulder, I think he'd agree with you, and that's what matters. God, I see posts like this often, and I'll never understand the mindset. The idea of expecting to be supported by my brother just boggles my mind. Him and his wife just gave my fiancé and I a generous cash engagement gift, and I was absolutely floored with appreciation, knowing how much they didn't need to do that. He never stopped visiting and asking how I'm doing after my son's death. He'd show me handmade projects he made for my son, and as a way to remember him, and we'd sometimes just sit and talk together or cry together. God damn, OP. What have I told you about chopping those onions while I'm trying to crap post for karma? Not the a-hole. Whether this is a proper 529 plan, or just some checking account that you tossed money into, after the intended beneficiary passed away, there is nothing obligating you to pick a contingent beneficiary due to perceived familial obligation. Try saying that 5 times fast. They kept pointing out that I was making a mistake and how my nephew will resent me if he finds out. Your nephew would be better served resenting his parents for not having the discipline nor the charisma to have thought ahead far enough to save money for his education. Well effing said. This aunt has some nerve. She's also being so disrespectful to the deceased son. I honestly can't believe someone could be so insensitive. If I died, I definitely wouldn't want my college fund going to some random cousin that I barely knew. OP is making the right decision, not the a-hole. Posted by user Disastrous Drawing 9. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my mum I'm not making her choose because I'm happy to be left out? I'm 26 female, recently divorced after learning my sister and husband were having an affair. I cut my sister off the day I found out. We have not spoken since. We have not been in the same room for more than 10 seconds, and I will not have a relationship with her moving forward. This year has been rough, and pandemic has made things easier regarding there was no visiting family, so the pressure was gone. But recently my mum wanted to have a family dinner again, and I told her I would not go because I did not want to be in my sister's presence. She told me I can't avoid her forever. She's my sister, and we share family. I told her I can and I will. Her response was telling me I am being unfair, making her choose between us, and I said I'm not making her choose because I'm fine not being invited. I know my stance means I will end up being excluded, but I will not play nice with her and my ex, especially now that they are getting married too. We are never going to play happy families. I don't want to be civil to them. So, I would rather not have anything to do with them, and they will never have anything to do with me again. My mum thinks I'm being very unfair. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add since this was asked, my dad died 9 years ago. I don't think you're being unfair in this instance. I think, if that's what you want to do in this situation, I cannot and will not blame you for that one. That's an incredibly stressful and strenuous situation to be caught in, and, I wouldn't want to talk to them again if I was played like that, and there was no chance of reconciliation, or I didn't want reconciliation. So, you do you, OP, just don't go to the dinner, don't interact, and live your life. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole? Your sister and husband clearly didn't think having an affair was unfair to you. No one should expect you to make nice. Oh no, my sister believes I was a bear for not understanding the two of them were meant to be. She sees none of it as being unfair to me. Since your mum is sticking by your sister and trying to guilt trip you into mending things, she must not see anything wrong with what your sister did either. I'd say cut them both out and let them be a happy family together, and you'll be happier without them. This... Like, what the F, Mum? I'd be done with her forever. Talk about obvious favoritism. F. Were Mum and Sister planning this from the beginning? Holy hell. Yeah, I get that a mother may not be able to completely cut off a child, but I don't see how she would let her be without any consequences at least, and exclude her from family dinners in favor of the cheated sister, or at least not ask them to coexist. I'm sorry this happened to you, OP. You are most certainly not the a-hole. This was a huge betrayal of your sister and your ex-husband. You seem to be handling it maturely and are not making your mum choose. To be honest, within reason, I would argue that anyone who puts you in a difficult position because of the way you are managing your situation is the a-hole. Mum is definitely partly the a-hole though, of course not nearly as bad as sister and ex. How does she think there will be family dinners ever again, much less this soon? Sister and ex tore the family apart with what they did. OP shouldn't be expected to try to fix it. She shouldn't even be expected to tolerate it. Nope, no way. As a mum myself of adults, OP's mum is also fully the a-hole, not just partly. If one of my kids did that to their siblings, they would be the ones not attending family get-togethers. I might not cut them out entirely, but their visits would be separate at some other time and not on the actual holiday. Honestly, it would take me a long time to get over how angry and disappointed I would be in them, so it might be a long time before I had them over at all. They would be permanently last on the invite list only after everyone else has RSVP'd, and only if the hurt child was not able to attend. Posted by user TA Wedding Craze. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my youngest daughter that I cannot give her away at her wedding? Long backstory. I have two daughters, Anna, elder, and Carly, younger, who are a year apart. Carly and Anna were close when they were younger, but drifted apart in their teenage years. I think she started resenting Carly because Carly always seemed to do well academically and socially. Anna decided to take loans and go to a college she wasn't really a fan of. Carly got a full ride to Anna's dream college. Anna became very resentful after that. She was sure that Carly chose that college to rub it in Anna's face. I tried my best to accommodate them both. Anna refused to talk to Carly and didn't consent to any form of therapy. Carly refused to compromise as Anna kept being unreasonable. In the end, they both stopped talking to each other. Neither of them has ever asked me to choose between them. As long as I don't bring up the other or try to get them to reconcile, I have a good relationship with both of them. Now, Anna is a single mum with a 3-year-old kid, Alex, who is always in between jobs and in debt. Me and my now wife help out when we can. She receives a bit of child support, but I have to admit that she is struggling. Carly, on the other hand, lives comfortably, has an incredible job, and is living with her long-term boyfriend. Recently, Carly announced that her boyfriend proposed and that she wants to plan a wedding in 2022. She asked me to walk her down the aisle, and I may have cried a bit. However, Anna found out, and then she came over to my house and had a breakdown about how she always thought she would be the first to get married in the family, and she has always wanted me to give her away first. I tried to console her, but she ended up getting angry and told me that I should refuse to give away Carly or have a father-daughter dance with her at the wedding. At first, I refused, but she then threatened to cut off all contact between her/Alex and us. If Alex wasn't in the picture, I would have cut Anna off. As things stand, I need to consider Alex's well-being. Carly is staunchly child-free, and it is very possible that Alex is going to be my only grandchild. Without my help, Alex's life is just going to be much more harder, and I cannot abandon Alex with a good conscience. While I understood that Carly would be upset, Alex was a child and he is priority. I spoke to Carly, explained the situation. I told her that there was still time and I would figure out a way to get Anna to change her mind. If not, I still promised that I would still be very involved with her wedding, except those two things. Carly just laughed and told me not to bother with her anymore, and told me she wasn't going to invite me to her wedding. I definitely know that Anna is an a-hole putting me in this position, but am I the a-hole for expecting Carly to be more understanding? Yes, you are. You're just going to blow off Carly for that, who is getting married, and Anna isn't getting married yet? I understand Anna is going to cut you off from the grandchild, but really I feel like Carly is more important in this position, and your priorities are out of whack. It really shows that you only care about Anna, and the fact that Anna's going to produce grandkids for you, over Carly and a life-changing wedding, where she expects you to be there and has high hopes for you. And you really let her down. You really did let her down in this situation. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. You are letting your daughter and her selfish wants win. You are not choosing Alex. You are choosing Anna over Carly. Shame on you. If I were you, I'd call Anna's bluff. She sounds like she's not doing too hot in life. My guess is she'd go no contact for a week before realizing she needs all the support she can get. I agree with this assertion. You would not be abandoning your grandchild. Anna would be purposefully taking him away from you. Sounds a bit like you were just giving in to the daughter who throws the biggest tantrum. It sucks to see parents choose the selfish bratty kid because of the grandkids, yet throw away their other daughter who is obviously not as important as she isn't providing you with grandkids. You're the a-hole? Stop rewarding bad behavior. Carly deserves to be walked down the aisle by her dad. I would also be prepared to bet that if Anna ever gets married, she will still expect you to walk her down the aisle and throw a tantrum to make it happen. I don't think it's about her not providing grandchildren. Yes, OP is wrong to give in. Yet, I can see the worry about Alex. If Anna is not a stable provider, indicative of the debt and not holding a steady job, I would completely be concerned about Alex. Personally, I think that OP should try to get custody if Anna is stable. But I understand about being worried about a child that is with someone who is selfish, because I guarantee that it doesn't just affect Carly, it affects Alex. I think Alex's safety should be important as well. I think everyone is ignoring this when making a response like it isn't a multi-layer problem. Yes, Carly should be walked down the aisle, but Alex needs someone stable in his life that's not narcissistic. I'd rather his childhood not be screwed up. Since Anna relies on her parents to help her take care of her son, I don't think she would actually cut them off. I think it's all hot air. Sure, she may do it for a week or two, maybe even a month or two. But before too long, she'll be hurting for money and free babysitting. And she'll be back. And in the meantime, Opie's relationship with their other daughter may have been shattered over nothing. Frankly, I think OP needs to sack up and refuse to let Anna use her child as a weapon. If she's allowed to do it even once, she'll do it over and over again. Posted by user Back Pay Up, titled, "Am I the a-hole for enforcing that my son uses his college fund to pay back his child support? All names are fake. My wife and I have 2 kids. Our oldest is Josh. He just started his 2nd year in college. Full disclosure, I'm not Josh's biological dad, but I've been married to his mum since he was 8. He's my son in all but blood. Josh has had a full ride scholarship at his college. His mum and I are very proud, and he has ambitions for law school after graduation. A few months ago, we were contacted by Tina, a girl who claimed to have a baby boy with Josh. The baby is a little under 18 months old. Tina said Josh had ghosted her and blocked her on all platforms. She'd been trying to get back in touch with him, but when that didn't work, began to look for his parents to contact. She finally found us and begged us to get Josh to talk to her. We were skeptical at first. He said he knew the girl, but denied the baby. We insisted on a paternity test, 2 of them, and they were positive. Tina has gone through the courts and now is pushing for back child support for the baby. Josh is panicking. He doesn't have much income or savings other than a college fund his mum and I have been paying into. He wanted to use that money for his first apartment and for law school. My wife wants to help him pay. The payments aren't much now, and we could afford to, but I'm against it. We, the wife and I, agreed that our kids would be responsible for themselves once they moved out. We'd help them if they needed it, but only if it was reasonable. To me, paying his child support for a baby he tried to abandon is unreasonable. He has the money in his fund. He just doesn't want to use it. Josh is afraid of not being able to afford law school without big loans in the future, and to that I say, tough. Should have thought of that before bringing a child into the world. My wife thinks I'm unfairly punishing him, and paying the support now would be investing in both the baby and Josh's future. I have no interest in taking care of an infant again this late in life. I'm fine with being grandpa, but not stand-in dad while Josh gets off scot-free. He needs to step up and take care of this kid. Edited to add, I suddenly have a flood of responses to read. I can't find the info posts I meant to reply to, so I will address some of the questions here. Tina, according to her, tried to get into contact with Josh while she was pregnant. He denied the baby was his and ignored her. They weren't dating. She attends community college, not his university. She has evidence of multiple attempts to contact him both before and after the baby was born. I don't know about protection being used. I'd hope they were careful and that this was just an accident, but I'm not going to ask about all the details of my son's sex life. The deed is done, the baby exists. He needs to step up and be a dad. I think not the a-hole for this one. I don't think it's your job to bail him out. Maybe he is going to be a lawyer with his own apartment one day. But for now, he made a mistake and he tried to block it all out and lied by omission to you guys about the situation. Maybe he could have been in law school and having his own apartment if he had been truthful from the start and helped work something out with you guys and been, not a piece of crap about this whole thing, leaving it for 18 months after the birth. Jesus, he went for almost 3 years without letting you guys know that he had knocked someone up. That's a long time. He deserves no mercy, no compassion, no nothing for this. He just completely swept this under the rug and was like, everything's fine. It's all gonna be fine. Just let me keep living my life unchanged. I think this man's is a absolute dirtbag. OP, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, and thank you for standing up for the girl and the baby. Josh needs to understand that actions have consequences. Agreed, not the a-hole. You are teaching your son a valuable lesson, especially if he wants to be a lawyer. He should understand the importance of consequences. I think Josh will be a good lawyer. Lots of them have a tough time keeping their pants zipped up. Lol. Not the a-hole. He has the money in his fund, he just doesn't want to use it. Should have thought about that before bringing a child into the world. I agree. Law school would be great, but he doesn't have that luxury. If he's still able to get a college degree and also has the money to support a child, he's doing well enough. And how many mothers have had to give up dreams of law school to look after a baby? Also, do we really want the kind of immoral lawyers who would abandon their own child? Who am I kidding? The attorneys who abandon their own children are the best ones, unfortunately. Exactly. When you need a lawyer to help you abandon your kid, you want someone with experience. Posted by user AmiTheA, titled, "Am I the a-hole for not letting my niece host her wedding at my quote-unquote castle?" 28 years ago, my wife and I combined our savings, most of which came from an inheritance after my father's passing, and bought our castle in southern Europe. It was actually a derelict farmhouse with some land, but it has a small turret, so our family has always referred to it as the castle. My wife and I decided we'd rather have a small, basic house in our home country and focus our time and resources readying the castle for us to retire in and for our children to enjoy. It took years, but around the time our eldest was born, it was finally finished. It's not massive, 5 bedrooms and a small pool in the garden, but it's our paradise. We've always allowed our families and friends to use it whenever they please, and have spent summer vacations staying there with our children. Our only stipulation when people stay there is that the master bedroom is off limits. It takes up most of the 3rd floor with the remaining bedrooms on the 2nd floor. A lot of my and my wife's belongings are in there, and it's also the room we have shared together for over 20 years. Recently, my niece got engaged and held an engagement party on Zoom at the weekend. When asked what ideas they'd had so far, she excitedly told me they'd actually been planning to ask us if they could hold the wedding at the castle. I was a bit taken aback, but didn't want to outright refuse. I joked it would have to be a rather small wedding, since they'd struggle to fit more than 25 people in the gardens. She gushed that she'd already thought it through, and they'd put up canopies in the field nearby. We don't own that land, and if all the guests stayed in hotels in the town, she would arrange transport for us all to get to the villa. My wife and I bit our tongues, not wanting to make a fuss during their engagement celebration. But later when my niece texted me to repeat what she'd said, I asked her to clarify the sleeping arrangements, and after some back and forth, it came to light that she plans to use the master bedroom as the bridal suite and for the wedding party to have the remaining rooms. My wife, children, and I would have to stay elsewhere. I slept on my decision and spoke with my wife. On Sunday, I responded and politely refused, saying that it's too small and we aren't comfortable having anyone in our room. Both she and my sister blew up at me, telling me I was ruining her wedding and she'd always dreamed of marrying at the castle. My sister even said since I used my inheritance, it's family property, which is obviously ridiculous. ETA, when we texted her on Sunday, we offered a compromise. No master bedroom, and either get permission or insurances to use the fields, or reduce guest count to 25. We even offered to host a small rehearsal too, but she rejected the offers. That is when we outright refused. It's your land to do so as you wish. If she's going to refuse your compromises and you're not happy with the original arrangement, you wouldn't be the a-hole for refusing that. I'm sure that it inconveniences them because they have to find somewhere else, and sure, that's a bit harder, but wow, that's life, isn't it? If you're trying to do something that's going to upset someone, you shouldn't be surprised when they reject that proposal, especially when they're family. You can't be offended when it's family. They're people too. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Do you know what your sister bought with her part of the inheritance? If so, good news. It's yours now. Be sure to let her know. I'm not sure what she used her money for. I know she used part of it for her degree, but there is nothing of hers that I'd lay claim to. That's not how inheritance works. Of course it's not, but it's about using her own idiotic logic against her. Ah, sorry. I missed the sarcasm. I'm a bit tense just now. Yeah, I shut her down pretty quickly in that regard. While yes, we've let them use our property freely over the years, that doesn't mean they own it. I agree. Maybe you shouldn't let them use it unsupervised anymore. Admittedly, it's rare now they would be there without us all, as we all tend to go into the summer anyway. I think my sister and brother-in-law only stayed there alone maybe a half a dozen times over the years. But whenever my wife and I aren't at the property, we always lock the hall door that leads to the master bedroom, so it's never been an issue before. Not the a-hole. You offered a compromise, but she has refused. This isn't just an extra property that you rent out. It is your second home and where you plan on retiring. Although I don't think it would be the end of the earth to accommodate them, the fact that they expect you and your immediate family to rent hotel rooms to attend a wedding in your property is ridiculous. Also, all these plans hinge on her getting access to property that you don't own to host canopies. And not to mention that she will need access to the castle ahead of time to set up all the vendors and do walkthrough. It's a bigger commitment and expense than she realizes. Just an aside, you would also have to get some sort of event insurance policy to cover anyone getting injured or driving drunk or damaging the neighboring property. Something to consider too. Thank you. I hadn't even considered vendors and insurance, but you're completely right. I'm not even sure how you would even get that kind of insurance in that area. I think one of the reasons she is planning to use the fields is when the children were younger, we let them play there. So I'm not sure if she now takes it for granted that we can use that area, but a wedding is a very different to 3 kids playing amongst the trees. Yeah, not the a-hole at all, OP. The demand is over the top rude, selfish, and frankly, insulting. It says a lot about her that on top of your place and your private space, she's also just planning to casually use land belonging to someone she doesn't even know to host the majority of the wedding. These kind of posts stress me out so much on behalf of the OPs. I really hope you don't cave to her outrageous demands. Posted by user Throwaway556. Titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to hug my little sister because my girlfriend doesn't want me to? This might be a bit unusual. So for some background, I, 34 male, have 2 siblings. A brother, 30 male, and a little sister, 23 female. For the purpose of this post, we'll call them Paul and Abby. When we were younger, our mum had this rule that every morning and before we went to bed, we should give each other a hug. I asked my mum about it when I got older, and she said her parents had a similar rule and she thought it made her and her siblings closer. Eventually, around the time I went to college, Paul and I stopped hugging every day because I found it pretty awkward. However, up until now, I would hug Abby. Whenever we were together, anyway. Paul does the same. Currently, all of us live together. Last night, my girlfriend, 35 female, was staying over and we were sitting on the couch. Abby said she was going to bed, so I gave her a hug. After she went inside, my girlfriend said that it was really weird and that I was babying Abby. She told me I shouldn't hug Abby anymore. This morning, when Abby tried to hug me, I told her she shouldn't anymore, because she's grown up now and it's kind of weird. Abby just said, okay, and then left. She didn't really talk to me for the rest of the day. It's been pretty awkward, because all of us are home all the time, since her school and our work is all online. Paul came up to me and said that I was being a dick. I told him it was my girlfriend who told me not to hug Abby, and he said that it was stupid that she was jealous of a kid, and she was being creepy. I feel bad, but I don't want to make my girlfriend uncomfortable. Am I the a-hole? I guess at face value, I'd say, yeah, you're the a-hole. And my reasoning would be that, Paul had a problem with it, and that probably stemmed from Abby venting to him about it, and the fact that Abby didn't talk to you. But there really doesn't seem to be too much communication going on between you and Abby. You didn't try to bridge the gap with her and say, hey, everything okay? You're kind of quiet lately. Maybe we can talk about this like civil adults and figure out if this offends you and what the problem is. Instead, you took the weak-spined approach of ignoring it and hoping it goes away. And as we see in Am I the A-hole, it does not go away, and it actually exasperates problems when you don't talk about them. So you're the a-hole purely for the fact that you refused to communicate in this situation and that made it worse. So yes, you're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. There is nothing wrong with hugging your sister. It's not babying your sister to give her a hug. That's a very normal thing to do. There is nothing weird about being affectionate with your family. I have many ideas for why your girlfriend would want you to stop hugging your sister, and none of them are good. You're the a-hole, and so is your girlfriend. People don't age out of needing hugs. You are still comfortable hugging each other, so you should keep it up. It's perfectly normal for families to do. Louder for the people in the back. This is so true. That's what's doing in my mental health the most right now. I live alone, and I miss being able to hug people. Hugging is important. I am a 36-year-old guy who hugs his 47-year-old sister and lifts her off her feet every single time I see her. Who the F ages out of hugging the family they love? OP questioning this itself is mind-boggling. Heck, I'm 37 female and my 39-year-old brother gives me the best hugs. He's really the only one in my family I like them from. They make me feel safe. I would be devastated if he all of a sudden stopped. You're the a-hole for immediately going along with your girlfriend and hurting your sister's feelings. Your girlfriend is being really creepy that she's sexualizing and is jealous of a hug with your sister. People have different levels of affection between siblings and families, yes, but it's weird she referred to it as babying her. Since when is hugging someone babying them? I'm concerned with the amount of affection she'd show your future children long term if she thinks a hug is too much affection. Also, shame on you for not questioning her and having a further conversation about it and standing up for something your family likes to do. Ask your girlfriend why it makes her uncomfortable and have a conversation with her as to your boundaries and expectations on being told what to do out of weirdness and jealousy. There's a few reasons why she may think it's uncomfortable, and none of them are good. Go apologize to your sister, give her a hug, and talk it out with your girlfriend and tell her to stop being weird. Posted by user Independent Print 698. Titled, Am I the a-hole, 46 female, for not making my newlywed husband pay for my daughter's 20 female tuition? My husband passed away 7 years ago due to cancer, and I've struggled to take care of my 4 kids, 6 female, 8 male, 10 male, and 20 female, as a single parent, but I've always done the best I can. We live in a safe neighborhood, there was always food in the fridge, and I tried to take them out to games and movies to treat them whenever I could. However, I did have to work multiple shifts, and I could not afford a babysitter. As a result, my older daughter had to take care of her younger siblings after school most weekdays. She's become very resentful towards me because of that, and said I robbed her of her childhood. But I was not sure what else to do. I was working almost 12 to 14-hour days just to provide a safe environment for the kids, and had absolutely no savings afterwards. It was a horrible situation, but I just had no money at all to put towards a babysitter. My daughter left home when she was 18 and cut contact with all of us for the last 2 years. Some of my friends and neighbors offered to watch the younger kids while I worked some days, and I was in a better financial place at this point, so we were able to scrape by without her help. However, she reached out to me a couple of months ago and said she was struggling during the pandemic, and asked if she could move back in with me, and I said absolutely. However, ever since she's been living back with us in our new house, there have been a lot of fights over finances. My husband is a dentist with his own practice, and makes very good money. My daughter has been saying that he should help her pay for her college amongst other things, like helping her get a new car, etc. This has caused a lot of problems between my husband and I told her that he doesn't know her at all. She also refused to come to the wedding, and it's not fair for me to make him give her money. She's been causing a lot of fights at our house because of this, and we're at the end of our patience and close to telling her she needs to move out. Am I the a-hole? I'm sorry, but this kind of strikes me as entitlement. I don't see how OP is the a-hole in this situation. Yeah, they can help out with smaller finances, but if I were the husband, I would not feel like I wanted to finance a new car and a degree for someone I didn't particularly raise, just because it's my wife's kid. The same kid that, yes, cut you off for 2 years and lived their life, and then you so graciously let them live with you again. I know it's hard to frame that as entitlement, but she's got a roof over her head, she's back in a stable position, and I know I said in the past that parents shouldn't parentify their oldest kid, making them look after the younger kids. They don't have to do that, and I don't think they should do that, but it has happened regardless. And this daughter has taken the last 2 years to reclaim back time that she, thinks that she has lost. I don't think on top of all of that, it's the job of this new husband to finance her lifestyle. I'm gonna go with not the a-hole. Everyone sucks here. You are not the a-hole in this current situation. However, the parentification of a 13-year-old can't be ignored. She was too young to be taking care of a newborn and 2 toddlers, especially considering this situation continued for 5 years, after which you were suddenly able to find childcare that you never could when she was living with you. I understand the circumstances were awful, but this should perhaps be worked through in family therapy. ETA, everyone sucks here verdict. Except husband, not enough info on what his views are on the situation, but he doesn't appear to have been an a-hole based on info in the post. I don't see daughter as the a-hole. She wants to be compensated for the sacrifices she was expected to make because family. I'm not going to judge OP for that because she may have had no other choice. But now that daughter has needs, it's every person for themselves. OP owes her a great debt and needs to start paying it. She's demanding compensation from the wrong party. If she does not know her husband, she should really be directing this at her mother. I completely feel for the daughter. She's only the a-hole very slightly. The real a-hole is the complete lack of social safety nets in whichever country OP lives in. The sacrifices weren't made because of family. This is like the opposite of that bullcrap excuse. The sacrifices were made because of survival. OP didn't leave her husband, and he didn't bail, he just died. I'm sorry, but when you go from 2 people and incomes to one with 3 kids, that family is about to get screwed and it's no one's fault. It's just life. Life happens. OP did what she had to, and that meant making the 13-year-old grow up sooner than she had to. It sucks, but life ain't fair. And is it really every person for themselves? Daughter requests to move back in, a need, and OP accepts without a fight, giving food and shelter in a time of need. Simply because she isn't willing to ask her new husband, someone who the daughter doesn't know, doesn't mean it's every man for themselves. Paying for college and a new car aren't needs, and demanding that from someone you don't know is just screwed, no matter who they're married to and what you went through. Posted by user AmiTheA throwaway 1123AA. Titled, Am I the a-hole for selling my daughter's iPad? In March 2018, my daughter, 16, bought an iPad. She bought it from her own Christmas money. She is a wonderful artist, but I believe she is limiting her potential. She has made money from it, as a little over a month ago, she was requested work on Instagram. She has a substantial amount of followers on it, 10k, and has made just under £100. It's nice that she's doing this, but it's making me worry. She does well in school, but all she is doing at the minute is drawing. I understand she has a hobby and people are paying her money. It is good, but I don't like what she draws either. It's not explicit in any sense, but I don't believe she is pushing herself. She has so much talent, and because she's drawing so much recently, she is neglecting her duties such as doing homework. I've tried getting it across to her that school is important. I came out with good grades and now I am an accountant. I worked hard at school by doing my homework the first day I got it. I went to many extracurriculars and I was a star student. If I could do it 30 years ago, she can do it now. I have a rule of no technology until after dinner. But recently, I found out she's been using her iPad before dinner. I took her iPad away from her and told her that she knew the rules. Before dinner is for homework only, but she complained because we have dinner at 7 to 7:30 and she goes to bed at 9:30, which doesn't give her enough time for her to make art for her customers, since she also has to shower. It seems that everything has been revolving around her iPad, and I've had enough. On Friday, I had overtime at work. I left the key for her and told her to do her chores. I come home to see that she hadn't done her work, and she came to me with a happy face. She had just been commissioned again, and she was receiving £50 for it. I flipped. We had the biggest argument we've ever had. My daughter accused me of not supporting her, which I do, but her education comes first, and I'm sick and tired of her games. She cannot make a living from her art, and this social media thing is poisoning her. She knows the rules in my house, and she must stick to it. She retaliated that now she's making money, I won't need to nag her like what I do. She finally has a good job, and she's making more from this than what she did on her paper rounds. She can put this money towards her college fund. I took her iPad and flat out told her I am selling it. She is to delete her Instagram and refund that new customer. She's been crying and wailing, accusing me of not loving her and twisting my words. She told the story to her auntie, and now I have her berating me too. Nobody seems to understand that my daughter is obsessed with this iPad. Her excuse is that she's making money, and I tell her that there is no use in making money now if you can't make it in the future. Am I the a-hole? Edit, I have not yet sold the iPad. It is with me. However, I had it put up on eBay this morning before I posted on here. Some of you are seriously making me reconsider, but my decision still stands. I want what is best for my daughter, so that in 10 years she can afford to draw all day and comfortably lounge at home and make money. Yeah, I'm gonna go with you're the a-hole for this one. I think it's obvious, and I think you know you're the a-hole, but your stupid prehistoric beliefs are getting in the way of that, And it's definitely disgusting what you're doing to your daughter. This is actual abuse. You need to do a full 180 and walk the other way. Do not sell that iPad, give it back to her and let her pursue her passions. You are the antithesis of what a parent should be. You should see that this is productive work and she's making money. It's a lot more than a lot of kids are doing these days. You're the a-hole. She cannot make a living with her art? No, she can't. You know why? Because you are standing in the way. She was making money, and you got in your feelings because it wasn't how you wanted her to. This is a first-class ticket to ruining your relationship forever with your daughter. Make some compromises before it becomes a bigger issue. Your way is not the only way. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. Your daughter has the right to develop a hobby. Taking it away from her is just straight up cruel. Not everybody is made to be an accountant, you know, and I'm sure you could teach her to balance hobbies and duties. Also, getting your art sold on Instagram is difficult. My girlfriend has been trying it for months, and so far it brought her no results, meaning your daughter is actually talented. So yes, you're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. 1. You have just stolen her property that she paid for. 2. This can't make money from art line is absolute trash. Graphic design artists can make upwards of $300,000 a year if they are good and get into the right places. And 3, currently, you are abusing your power over a child. Do you know what that is called? Child abuse. You know what happens to child abusers when they get caught and go to prison? ... Posted by user TA Sorry Not Sorry. Titled, Am I the a-hole for not liking how my girlfriend dresses for work? So, I, 43 male, don't think I'm in the wrong here. But my mother is very angry at me, and my best friend said I was a horrible person for saying what I did, and I'd be lucky if my girlfriend didn't put me out with the garbage, since I decided I wanted to act like trash. My girlfriend, 34 female, is a preschool teacher, and for some reason I can't explain, she dresses like Miss Frizzle, like a dress with a pattern of whatever they are studying. She makes a lot of them herself, now including matching masks. The kids love it, and the parents seem to think it's great. I don't like the amount of attention she gets, honestly. I'd prefer if she came home and changed before running any errands. On Friday, she helped my mum with something after work and she was still in her weird dress. I have told her before I don't like when she dresses that way, but she tells me I don't have to like it, but I have no right to tell her how to dress. I was upset that she went out like that with my mother, and told her that my mum said she was embarrassed and to ask that she please not dress like that again if they are going out. I was not expecting her to call my mum and apologize. When my mum asked her what she meant, she told her what I said. My mum was furious, explained she doesn't have a problem with how my girlfriend dresses, and thinks it's great she spends extra time doing things to engage her students. My mum then yelled at me for lying to my girlfriend and trying to throw her under the bus because I was being an insecure jerk. My girlfriend and I got into a huge fight. I said she should be embarrassed to be seen in public like that. She said the only thing she was embarrassed by was me. She hasn't spoken to me or done anything for me since. My friend said I was horrible and called me trash. I shouldn't have lied, but I think my girlfriend should take what I think about her clothes into consideration, and I'm not sorry for expecting her to dress more appropriately in public. Am I really such an a-hole here? Edit. I'm sure you will all be pleased to know we broke up tonight. She said I'm controlling and narrow-minded, so she broke up with me. I just wonder why some people post on Am I the a-hole like this? Like, do you not get halfway through the post and then you read it back and you're like, oh god, maybe I'm the problem. Yeah, I might be the problem. Is it an ego thing with these people? Because it's just obviously dripping in toxicity, the entire post. I just think it's apparent that these two are not a match for each other. He wants someone that's boring and mature and will dress appropriately like a 1950s lady and not have any sense of individuality, just blend into the crowd and to live your life and eventually die one day and never have fun, never have fun. It's not a good idea. Don't do any of that. You suck, OP. Please mature and find someone boring for yourself that will bore you to death because screw you. Bro, what? You're the a-hole. Mrs. Frizzle is a treasure. She is not to be disrespected. If I had a teacher like that when I was in school, I would have loved it. Enthusiastic teachers are the best. I had multiple teachers like that in high school, and they were hands down the best teachers the school had to offer. They just put so much effort into their lessons, you can't help but appreciate them. So I was a science teacher with red hair, and my students gifted me a Mrs. Frizzle costume. I took it to be the greatest honor my students could bestow. A bunch chipped in, and it was a whole thing. I once wore it while chaperoning a dance, and it became the stuff of legend. You're the a-hole. You don't understand why a preschool teacher would dress in bright, fun, educational outfits? This can't be for real, can it? My co-workers wear fun patterned dresses. We work with college students, and everyone likes how she combines her personal quirky taste with nice dresses. OP is the a-hole. Hell, I work in an auto repair shop with my husband. I wear the most random leggings. My favorites are the ones with multicolored cat heads on them. My husband has never once complained about the way I dress. He laughs sometimes when I forget to do laundry and come to work in 4 different patterns, looking like I got dressed in the dark. But he's never said a word. OP is definitely the a-hole. Posted by user sunnyday6884. Titled, Am I the a-hole for taking back my nephew's Christmas present and giving it to my son? My sister and I have always had a strained relationship. I usually just let things go and try to keep the peace. We both have sons who are around the same age. My nephew is 13 and my son just turned 11. For my son's birthday, I bought him the new gaming system he has been wanting. He was absolutely thrilled and he plays non-stop. My sister is bad with money. I usually have to lend her money for bills and stuff for my nephew. I know my nephew doesn't always get the best Christmas gifts, so this year I went a little crazy and I purchased the same gaming system for him for Christmas. I already had it ready and wrapped under my tree. Yesterday, my sister's family came to visit. My son asked me if they could go play video games. I said yes and reminded them to be careful. About 30 minutes later, my son comes running to me crying. I asked him what was wrong, and he led me to the front hall. When we get to the stairs, I see the new system smashed on the floor. Someone had thrown it from the upstairs, and it was now smashed to pieces. I asked my son what happened, and he sobbed and pointed at his cousin. I asked my nephew if he did this, and he started to laugh. He said that it was a stupid baby toy, and that he saw people break them online. Bloody TikTok. My sister came in, and I told her what happened. I explained that this was an expensive system, and that her son needs to be disciplined for what they did. I told her I wanted her to pay for what her son broke. She laughed and said no. She says I shouldn't have let them play unsupervised, that it was my fault, and that I am a bad parent. She said my son will get over it, and that it was not important. Seeing my son sitting on the ground next to his broken system trying to put the pieces back together tore my heart out. I walked over to the Christmas tree and grabbed the system that was meant for my nephew. I pulled the gift wrap off and gave it to my son and told him to go upstairs and set it up. My sister asked me why I was making such a big deal when I had another one already. I then laughed and told her that was her son's Christmas gift, that since it wasn't important and it was just a stupid baby toy, then they obviously won't miss it. I then told them to leave. My nephew realized what happened and began to cry that my son had stole his system. I said no, his was the one that he smashed. My sister was livid and told me that I will never see them again. I just said, okay, and slammed the door. Other family members have been calling me non-stop and saying I am an a-hole and that I ruined my nephew's Christmas. I don't think so though. My nephew is 13. He is not a stupid kid and he knew what he was doing. I don't care that it was over jealousy. He is old enough to know better. My sister was not going to make the situation right, so I just did what I had to do. They all think I should buy another new system for him, but I don't have that kind of money. I'm starting to feel bad about this, and I am wondering, am I the a-hole? No, screw that kid. He just got that off TikTok and he's like, oh, it's going to be a fun trend. And he didn't even record it for TikTok, so what was the point of doing it? He's just going to spread misery. He's doing it for a laugh. He's just being a bully. Give him the treatment he deserves. Screw this kid. And then screw the mum for trying to reward that behavior. What's going through her head? No, not acceptable. We're leaving that behavior in 2020. We're done with it. We're going to wash our hands clean. Goodbye, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Your sister's terrible parenting ruined her kid's Christmas. Your nephew's jealousy ruined his own Christmas. It's entirely possible that your sister has spun a lie to the extended family, so be sure the flying monkeys have the full story in your responses to them. What part of my nephew deliberately smashing my son's console, telling us he had seen it done online, and insulting the gaming system is acceptable in your eyes? How is my sister refusing to take responsibility for the damage or for disciplining her son acceptable in your eyes? I bought 2 consoles. My nephew deliberately smashed one. I won't be buying a third. If you think that sort of behavior deserves to be rewarded, feel free to buy a console for the nephew yourself. OP replies, that's a great response. I might just use that. I think she's telling our family a lie about what happened to make herself the victim. She's kinda known for this kind of thing. Not the a-hole. Your sister just disrespected you and your child and doesn't care enough to discipline hers. Her son will grow up to be an entitled jerk. You did nothing wrong. Just taught them a lesson that I hope they learn. Probably won't though. My nephew isn't a terrible kid all the time, but he has some serious rage issues. My sister refuses to listen to reason and won't get him help. The school board even tried to step in, but now she just homeschools him instead. Oh Lord, this is not going to end well. Posted by user Room Swap Am I the A-hole? Titled, Am I the a-hole for trying to force my stepson to move out of his bedroom so my daughter can move in? I've never used this site before, but my daughter uses it pretty regularly and suggested that I post here. I have a daughter and a stepson who I will call Carly and Kyle. Carly 15, Kyle 18. They've never been particularly close. Kyle tends to avoid myself and Carly like the plague. He hasn't bothered even trying to build a relationship with us. I have been with Kyle's dad since the kids were 10 and 13. Due to some personal troubles, which I'll not go into detail about, Kyle stays with his dad, though his mother will visit fairly regularly and they are in constant contact. She, of course, believes me to be the a-hole in this situation. Kyle has stayed in the attic since I knew him. His parents had the attic converted into a proper bedroom for him when he was around 9 or 10. It is an absolutely stunning room. Plenty of space, nice furniture, and it's currently inhabited by several dressmaking dummies as he is studying fashion at university. Lately, Carly has asked me if she can stay with me full time. She and her dad are just not getting on, and she'd prefer living with me. Her dad is absolutely fine with this, as he was never really good with her in the first place. This means that the majority of Carly's things will be at our place. She has a lot more things than Kyle, and would most likely need more space. That's why I thought it'd be a better idea to have Kyle move into Carly's slightly smaller bedroom downstairs, and Carly can move into the attic bedroom. I even offered to pay for whatever Kyle wants for his new bedroom, regarding wallpaper, paint, posters, etc., as I know it is a bit of a change for him. Kyle is not a fan of the idea, and has been complaining about how he needs the space to work on his uni projects. I told him that he is more than welcome to use the dining room, as we rarely ever use it, and we can clean out one of the storage cupboards to store the dummies in. Kyle's partner is also not a fan of this, though I am almost 100% sure that this is just because in the attic bedroom, they can do whatever teenagers do without interruption. I think that Kyle is being a bit overdramatic about this, as I'm not kicking him out into the streets, just into a smaller bedroom, which I have offered to decorate for him. His father is not completely sold on the idea, but is slowly coming around. He also thinks that Kyle is being a bit dramatic regarding the room situation. Kyle's mother and girlfriend, and of course Kyle himself, all think that I'm being an a-hole. Am I the a-hole? Edit. The people who are bringing up Kyle paying rent. He pays us £100 dig money per month. He wanted to start paying rent to help his dad out. We did not force him, and we will be expecting Carly to start paying rent when she's old enough too, so that Kyle is not singled out. Yes, Kyle's dad did cheat on his ex with me. His ex-wife was in a bad place, and it put a lot of stress on Kyle's dad. I had not long divorced my husband, Carly's dad, and I was in a bad place. We got drunk and did something stupid. Neither of us intended for it to turn into anything more, but it did. I regret my comment about how Kyle's mum should have got her crap together. I was a bit stressed when I wrote that. And lastly, regarding the absurd claims that I am biphobic and homophobic, I'm not. My brother is a gay man, and one of my best friends is a bisexual gentleman. Kyle's relationships up until this point have barely made it past 2 months. He sleeps around when he's not in a relationship with someone. Thankfully, not in the house, as that can be dangerous. I do not want Carly thinking this behavior is okay, as I know how dangerous it can be. Kyle is not my son. He has made that abundantly clear, but I have provided him with condoms in the past to make sure he stays safe. I just don't want Carly to start acting like him. Finally, you'll all be very glad to know that I'm not pushing the subject any further. Kyle can keep his room. I'll just tell Carly that she's going to get rid of her belongings. Thank you. Second and last edit. I was stressed when I wrote about Carly getting rid of her things. She's going to put her things in the storage cupboard and the dining room. I wouldn't make my child throw her things away. I was just angry. Also, my worries about Kyle are in no way the same as what happened with his dad and I. We were drunk, it was a stupid mistake that turned into something more, I was not sleeping around, Kyle's dad was the one that it happened with. Kyle has multiple sexual partners, and I worry that he isn't being safe all the time, and that this could be a bad influence on Carly. Kyle is keeping his bedroom. Carly is making do with the smaller bedroom. She also has found the thread and is upset with the amount of hate she is getting in the comments. Does it make you lot feel good to make a teenage girl cry? You can call me whatever you want. I might even deserve it. But my daughter has done nothing wrong. Though I'll be sure to let Kyle know that you lot have deemed him Mr. Perfect. I think we can just extrapolate from that indeed OP is the a-hole in this situation. You can always tell by, of course, extended monologue post the story itself when they have to put so many edits up to try and justify their actions. And it just gets so much worse every time, I swear. Some people have quite some interesting life stories. I guess it might have been relevant to the story. It just makes me question you as a character that you've cheated and got into a relationship with this guy. How can either of you guys trust each other that you won't cheat on each other and repeat this same mistake later in the future? Yes, the bedroom situation sucks, but Carly never deserved that room. Kyle was always going to keep that room, and I hope he's happy and gets away from you guys eventually. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. You can't kick him out because you want your daughter to have his room. You give her what's available. Such a terrible thing you're trying to do. He's also paying rent. OP replied to my comment below saying so. You're the a-hole. That has been his room for years. Now you want to favor your own child. This is his space. He needs it for his studies. All of his points are valid. You are playing favorites and wanting to give your daughter the bigger room. Your reasoning makes zero sense. Oh, she has more things. But then go, yeah, well, we can store his stuff downstairs. Yeah, so can she. Posted by user Eat Me Jabroni, titled, Am I the a-hole for storming out of a dinner with my wife and her best friend? So I went out to eat with my wife and her best friend. I don't like her friend because I think she's a very selfish, self-centered, loud, and irritating person to be around, and her friend knows that I hold that opinion about her. There is a lot more to it than that, but this post would be much too long if I was to go over the more in-depth reasons we don't get along. Anyways, because of my feelings towards her friends, they have been having issues within their own friendship. We all decided to go out to eat in order to make things better between us, and while self-admittedly her friend did kind of annoy me throughout, I thought the dinner had gone well. That all changed when the bill finally came. We had already decided to go half on the tip, and while I put $15 down, she thought it would be funny to pull out her purse and make a heart out of pennies for a tip. I saw that and asked if she was serious, to which she said, well, I just don't really believe in tipping. That upset me, so I pulled out my wallet, put an extra $10 down, and started getting up to leave. Her friend said, what did I do? And I told her, I just don't feel like conversing with a piece of crap anymore, and I went to my car. When my wife came to the car, she began to yell at me. I told her I understood why she was angry, but that some people just don't get along, and that I felt it was best that her friend and I stop trying to get along. I don't control my wife, and she's allowed to hang out with anyone she pleases, so while I do see why her friend and I getting along would be ideal, I don't see why it's mandatory that we get along for their own friendship to work. Am I the a-hole for storming out like I did? I think, yeah, your interaction sucked, but hers did also. I feel like this is set in the US and that, the crappy system you guys got going there, you need to tip just so you can support the livelihoods of others. Kind of crazy how that do be a thing though. So really, by proxy, she's saying, I don't feel like paying the waiters a living wage. Who do you think I am? I think that's a crappy thing to be saying, but I also think you attacking her like that when you should be amicable and friendly with your wife's friends, because you're intentionally screwing up her social life, and hey, you didn't swear an oath to your wife to, screw up her social life? You didn't do that when you got married, right? You swore to protect her. Kind of a dick move that you would do this. Yeah, she did a sucky thing, but you chose to up the ante and do a sucky thing also. You could have been the bigger man in this situation and, calmed yourself and humbled yourself and not done this. You could have done something that normal people would do, but you chose not to. So everyone sucks here. Everyone sucks here. I get that you hate the friends, and maybe she is annoying, and the tipping thing makes her an a-hole. But I definitely don't get the sense from this post that you're much of a peach yourself. I'm curious, how is OP an a-hole here? He respects his wife's right to maintain this friendship. He made an effort to try and overcome his dislike. They agreed, and going Dutch, and the friend reneged on the deal. When it came to a head, he paid her part and removed himself from the situation, and later showed understanding for his wife's anger. Maybe he could have handled it better, but the only problem I see is that his wife might have felt embarrassed. That is valid, but the actual source of that was her friend deciding to flaunt her unconventional, and in my opinion, disrespectful opinion when she knew she was at a peacemaking dinner. How is OP an a-hole here? He threw a temper tantrum instead of explaining that he wanted to leave a proper tip. Explain how he threw a temper tantrum, because it sounds like he said harsh words, but true words, and then removed himself from the table. Sounds like friend and wife were the ones having a temper tantrum. Calling someone a piece of crap is not harsh. It's a really rude and horrible thing to say about a person. You know what's rude and horrible? Leaving a handful of pennies obnoxiously arranged into a heart on the table for the waiter and waitress because you think you're cute. OP is not the a-hole in my opinion. Slightly not the a-hole. You probably could have handled that better, but your wife's friend is not your friend. If she wants to hang out with her, but their friendship is somehow strained, that's on your wife, not you. I don't see why your wife wants you to like her friend so badly anyways. Also, the pennies thing was a low move from her. My friend used to be a waitress, and when I asked her about that, she says that she would rather the customer just not leave a tip than make her clean all of those pennies off the table. Everyone sucks here. The adult thing to do would have been to cover her tip and bite your tongue, then discuss in private with your wife why you won't be spending another moment of your time with this woman. Your wife is a slight a-hole for continually trying to put you two in situations that are going to bring conflict, and frankly, for choosing such a person for a best friend. ETA, your wife is more than a slight a-hole for responding to your reaction by yelling at you for not keeping the peace. The friend is a major a-hole for agreeing to split the tip and then pulling some BS like this when it's time to settle up. If she didn't believe in tipping, she should have made that clear from the beginning. If she were genuinely interested in making peace to appease your wife, she wouldn't be creating unnecessary drama in this manner. She just as easily could have done the adult thing and chipped in for an appropriate tip, as she had said she would. Especially when you initially prompted her to not be an a-hole about it. You know what? No, it's not. And your advice is half the problem with modern society. Not calling out a-holes when they're being a-holes, especially when they're habitual a-holes, is how they get away with it. Calling her out for her bullcrap with the tip was the right move. Alright, I think that's where I'm going to end today's video, guys. I do hope you enjoyed it. As always, I want to do a huge shout out to all my channel members and Patreon subscribers. You should be up on the screen now. I love you all, and I think every single one of you are amazing for supporting the channel in the way that you do. Again, thank you so much for supporting me. And again, if you did enjoy today's video, please do tell me what you thought of it down in the comments below. All of your hot takes, opinions, whatever you think, really, whatever's going on in your life right now, I'd love to hear down in the comments below. Before I leave, I'd also like to announce that I'm going to start doing meme content again on the second channel. I know it's been a while, so click on the Markee head on the screen without the Australian flag behind him if you want to go see some memes. And as always, guys, have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.